Hello, and welcome to a response to this video. Stop normalizing Nazis, socially conscious game design, buy extra credits. I'm probably going to upload this as IRL stream too, but yeah. Okay, so this is 5 minutes, this shouldn't take too long. Then once I'm done with this, I'll actually record my 11th episode of my podcast. To be fair, I was actually considering including this as part of the 11th podcast, but
there you are, playing the PvP in your World War II shooter, and all of a sudden, you're a Nazi.
Okay, the way this is worded implies that being put on the Axis side automatically turns you into a fascist. That's not quite how it works. But anyway,
you didn't ask for this. You didn't choose this.
The second I queued for multiplayer, the second I decided I was queuing for multiplayer, I accepted the possibility of being put on the Axis. It's the same. Admittedly, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but it's the same with CS when I queue for comp. But we'll go into that when we get to it. Also, if you look at where it says Recon at the bottom, it doesn't even have the actual Nazi NS Germany symbol. That's actually heavily censored with your basic with your basic Iron Cross, which isn't even German. I believe that was created by Napoleon. So get your facts right. But once again, we'll get to that. There's already enough censorship. We don't need more.
Yet there it is. And it's treated no differently than playing a British soldier.
I mean, other than guns, maybe, and some other things, what is the difference? Like, nobody's thinking about the ideology they're fighting for when they're playing World War II games. Like, people like you are literally the reason why Battlefield 5 is shit. Man, that campaign was just cringe, but anyway. Extra credits. Ill. As a matter of fact, no, their videos on the Great Northern War weren't complete trash. This video is just awful, though.
This is bad on so many levels. No one should ever have a random chance of fighting for the Nazis.
What? Why? Like, if I queue multiplayer, I don't give a fuck.
And we should never express that there's no meaningful difference between Nazis and Allied soldiers, or that they're functionally interchangeable.
They both fought for their respective governments. The only difference is one won and the other one is the villain.
And before anyone equivocates and says not all German soldiers in World War II were Nazis.
I mean, one, I don't think anyone actually says that, but two, some people were conscripted. Conscription actually occurred on both sides.
If they were wearing the swastika and are functioning as an arm of the Nazi government, then unless the game goes out of its way to tell you specifically...
This is just a really nice draw, man.
...that your particular character is not a Nazi, then they're a Nazi. In that multiplayer shooter, when it switched you to the German side, did it go out of its way to tell you that the person you're playing was...
No, because that ruins fucking immersion. When I'm playing on the Axis side, even though I don't actually play many World War II games, it's probably to do, like, I don't know, 20, 50, whatever kills with the MP40. I don't give a fuck about this.
Pressed into service under threat of their life? Yeah, that's a big old nope. Oh, and on a similar note, let's please stop forcing people to play as terrorists as well.
I swear. I've watched this video before, and the only reason I'm recording this is because of how dumb his CS logic is.
There you are, playing your modern shooter, and all of a sudden you're a terrorist. You didn't ask for this, you didn't choose this, and yet second verse, same as the first. There it is. I mean, that's...
Okay, where do we begin? You could actually argue that there is benefits to being CT or terrorist side in CS. Most maps The vast majority of maps except for Cobblestone are CT-sided. but as a T, you get the ability to one-tap people. With CT side, though, you'd have to use an AWP. Also, it's not that deep.
Literally the name of...
Actually, no. Yes, okay, fine. You know where it says team here? If you all have the same... If you're all part of the same group and have the same clan tag, it actually would say, like, for example, we'll just go to my groups. I probably should have been more prepared for this, but anyway. Groups. It will say, like, Zinc won the round if me and four of my friends have, like, yeah. I'm part of a lot of groups, Pug. But anyway. So, yeah. It actually would say Zinc instead of terrorists, or UK players, or on-screen LOL, or Nexus, or etc. It doesn't always come up like that. Matter of fact, me and three of my friends, so we had a 4-stack, went into a game with the fucking Giuliano fucking clan tag, and we convinced the other person who was also a big fan of her to have that name, and yeah, whenever we went around it would say that group won. But nice try. It's clear you don't know anything about CS.
Your side in the game. We can do better than this.
Why does it even matter? When I play CS, let's see, in the warm-up, I'm thinking, can I find any useful nades for my team? Whether I'm starting on CT or T side. During, like, the 15 seconds before the pistol round 1 starts, I'm thinking, does this team have mics? And what is the strat? If we're on T side, is anyone going to buy smokes? Are we going to go mid, take mid control? Or are we just going to rush B because we have Glocks and they have USPSs? If I'm on CT side, I'm thinking I should take long range fights because USP is better at long range. Or will this team want to play retake? Like, it's not that deep, blood.
Even if you put aside all of the people who have had traumatic experiences with these groups, who have lost loved ones...
Okay, now do movies.
...to terrorists, or who have had generations of their families wiped out by Nazis, no one should have to put on the costume of an ideology they find abhorrent with...
Okay, now do commies. I find communism abhorrent. Does that mean that I should have to... Does that mean I get to not play as commies in games like Red Orchestra?
...out actually opting into it in your game. And by making people do so, we get them to stop thinking about it.
Okay, do movies, like I've already said.
To stop thinking of them.
If you won't do the same for movies, then your argument becomes invalid.
Meaning behind these things. We normalize them. We make them just window dressing for entertainment. Those uniforms, those symbols, become things that no longer inherently revolt us. They reduce our visceral reaction to seeing the embodiment of these ideologies. Now, does this make us totally ignore the history that comes with them? No.
This basically just dismantles your whole video. This video does not need to exist if it doesn't make us forget the history behind them. Like...
But for some people, it moves them from the territory of revolting to just edgy. It makes scrawling a swastika on something change from unthinkable to just dangerous.
Now do the hammer and sickle.
It means you might not take iron crosses all...
Iron crosses aren't even in Origin. And they're not even associated with Nazis. The only thing you can really say that could be associated with the Nazis, I'm going to just start calling them Natsocks, because that's basically what they are, is the swastika. The Iron Cross, I believe, was invented by Napoleon.
All over a web.
The same way the Reich's goose-stepping was actually invented by Frederick the Great? King of Prussia? One of the kings of Prussia invented it.
As a warning sign that you should immediately leave, and if you don't leave, you might start reading and buying into hateful ideas there.
I could literally say the same thing about communism.
It seems like such a small and simple thing, but it's things like this that erode our safeguards against dangers we sacrifice so much to fight. By the time you've played 100 hours of being a Nazi, their voice stabs become memes.
What the fuck's a voice stab?
And in-jokes with your friends. By the 1000th time you've respawned as a terrorist, you're either celebrating them or making fun of them.
No. If anything, I'm only happy that I have the ability to one-tap people with my AK Vulcan. Like, once again, it's not that deep. If anything, the only good thing about starting as T-side on most maps, because they're CT-sided, is knowing that if I get more than 5 rounds, I actually stand a good chance of winning the entire game. That's maybe the only benefit to being a terrorist in CS, which is clearly what you're talking about, CS, since you brought up Counter-Strike, like, back here. Like, it's raw, not that deep.
Neither of which helps the global crisis we have that takes thousands of lives every year.
Okay.
So what do? That's easy. Don't make them morally equivalent. Don't make there be no in-game moral difference between your Nazis and your allies, between your terrorists and your counter-terrorist squads. Frame PvP as a training exercise.
This is what leads to him promoting R6 Siege, but we'll get to that when we come to it. Like,
or simply take one of your non-odious sides and recolor them so that it's red versus blue.
So Halo. No, because then Microsoft gets to sue everyone for copying their fucking game design.
Rather than Axis versus Allies. A good example of a game that does this is Rainbow Six Siege.
Oh, fuck off. No. It's like, okay, I do get the point, but there is still terrorists in it. There is still this thing called Terrorist Hunt, which is basically the only way R6 players can warm up. They don't get execute servers. They don't get retake servers. They don't even get deathmatch servers. It's like, if you're playing Siege, you either fucking Terrorist Hunt or you go into casual. That's shit.
All of your bomb diffusion and hostage rescue multiplayer with no normalizing.
Technically, you know, he looks to be defusing an actual bomb. Technically, in the bomb mode, you technically plant the diffuser and then you have to basically disable the diffuser. But I've been nitpicking when they're
by having all of the...
You leftists... Okay, so based upon this tablet, I'll assume this is meant to be Dokebi. Dokebi ain't that. How the fuck you going to... I'm surprised none of the leftists have called you racist for fucking whitewashing Dokebi. Okay, I assume this is meant to be Ying, and the only black person in the game that would even look close to that is probably Castle.
The characters as counter-terrorists training for a possible threat. It highlights how real and present of a...
No, all Siege does is make people toxic. Like, CSGO has a bad community, and so do other games, but Siege has probably more. Siege is toxicity. Oh man.
The threat that is. And if you decide that you need to have both sides be playable, don't make them interchangeable. Don't have players randomly spawn in as one or the other.
This screws over multiplayer. I don't give a fuck what team I'm playing. Like, as long as I get a fucking game. It's like, sure, maybe if I'm doing a challenge for like 40 MP40 kills, I'm gonna want to go on the Axis. Because guess what? I like to complete challenges because the rewards are often decent. XP, weapon skin. In the case of Battlefield, it leads you to like unlocking a different weapon, whatever. As a matter of fact, I haven't actually played multiplayer for Battlefield 5, and I didn't really play much Battlefield 1, so I don't know if that's in there, but...
Allow players to choose which side they're on.
CSGO does this in casual, for fuck's sake. If I queue up into casual, I get to choose whether I want a counter-terrorist or terrorist. And yeah, most people, especially in casual, are gonna go terrorist because the AK has an ability to one-tap. The only way you can fix this is by making the M4 one-tappable, but then it has a higher fire rate and can one-tap, which makes basically even some of the T-sided maps CT-sided. You can't have a balanced game like that.
Now, of course, this has all sorts of in-game problems, such as creating shorter wait times for fascists.
Doing challenges makes me fascist. Really?
But you know what? Those wait times could be artificially extended.
No, because that's not what I play the game for. If I buy a game, I want to get into a game as soon as possible. This also screws over people that picked allies because there won't be a game because there'd be no point in queuing Axis. Like, do you not think?
If it meant players had an active choice in what teams they would represent, if you're saying we need people playing Nazis in our games. And if you're going to say, but we need it for historical reasons, then your game better actually be historical.
Wait, I swear yous were complaining that Battlefield 5 wasn't fucking... That Battlefield 5... That we wanted Battlefield 5 to be historical. You were complaining that we wanted Battlefield 5 to be more historical. You don't get to claim you want historical games and then support a game that has, what is it, like, a fucking robot-armed woman in the front of World War II.
You can't really just hide behind the fact you called your desert map El Alamein.
The idea of 100% realism is good for some other games, but the casual player that is playing Battlefields, only, let's be real, only slightly less casual than the Call of Duty player, only wants to have some level of historical immersion. If it's too realistic, then nobody would play it. Let's be real. Well, I probably would, but anyway. Wait, I clicked on the screen. It should be playing.
And say, but it's historical. If that were the case, you need your PvP to at least represent real historical events and be a realistic take on those battles. Once you make both...
I mean, most of the maps actually are somewhat realistic, but they're not too realistic because too much realism would make the game not fun. It has to be both fun and immersive. I don't think you understand how gaming works. I mean, based upon your earlier comments, you clearly don't understand how Counter-Strike works. But anyway.
Balance. It's also no longer historical. And you can't really say that you need Nazis anymore for historical accuracy.
Yeah, I can. Even if the game is still not 100% accurate, I can still have the historical accurate factions, because that doesn't interfere with the fun or the immersion. The immersion is kept if I have the Axis, the Natsocks, Italians, Japanese, whatever.
Oh, and once you let players get cool weapons that weren't actually at that particular battleground, it's also no longer historically...
So, if I work hard to... So, to keep realism, if I'm making a game, I'd have to deny players the right to use a weapon they've worked hard to unlock. You're actually taking the piss. Like... Okay, in the campaign, yes, that's actually, I think, technically what is done.
But accurate. And you can't declare that your game will suffer if you don't put players in the jackboots of the Third Reich. And once your map is something carefully designed to have good gameplay by a team in a room in San Francisco or LA, and it's not a faithful reconstruction of the actual places the historical events occurred in, you can know...
It's close enough. It's close enough that it's both fun and immersive. I don't get what you're not understanding.
No longer say we need to have players take up arms in service of terror or hate. And look, we're not saying we can't have games about World War II or about terrorism.
No, that's exactly what you've been saying. You fucking muppets.
We're not even saying we shouldn't make games where you play as a Nazi or a terrorist. But what we are saying is that the fact...
That's literally exactly what you have been saying. What do you mean?
That you're playing as a Nazi or a terrorist in a game has to mean something. And it can't just be a skin. It can't be something that a game randomly drops you into.
Yes, it can, because that's... If you don't want to risk playing as the Nazis, you can do two things. Not buy the game, but if you're still gonna fucking buy the game, just fucking leave the game and then search for another one. It's not that deep.
If we are saying anything in this episode,
oh my...
games can do better. And in this particular case, it's not even...
Yeah, but games can do better by ignoring you fucking commies. The best games were the best historical games are the ones that are somewhat historical accurate, but also have some decent immersion. Like,
Been that hard to do better, and it's no more costly to do better. All it requires is that we in the game industry be cognizant of the world around us and what these symbols we're drawing on mean. That we think as we're building, not just about the game we're working on, but about the world as a whole. If we can do that, we can take a big step forward for the industry. We can stop helping to normalize Nazis.
No one's normalizing Nazis, you fucking... I did actually say earlier I wouldn't call them Nazis. No one is trying to normalize them. Like, allowing some people to play as a faction is just historically accurate. I think it's funny how you leftists have issue with the ability to play as the Reich, but you have no issue with fucking bionic women on the front lines of World War II. I'm sorry, this video is just beyond awful. Like, Counter-Strike literally... it doesn't even reference any modern terrorist groups. Like, all terrorist teams, like whether the anarchists or the people from fucking Inferno or the people from Nuke, are all just made up terrorist groups just so you can have your counter-terrorists who are often either FBI or the UK SAS. Oh, yeah. Like, it's just not that deep. Like, oh man, that was just, it was just painful to watch. Okay, this has been IRL Stream 2. Technically I've recorded it, but for the sake of argument, we're calling it IRL Stream 2. Response to extra credits, awful video. I'm going to copy and paste this just so I have the title. And then I'm going to probably upload this, then record my 11th podcast episode of my podcast. But yeah, that will be uploaded. This will be uploaded hopefully by 1:30. Peace. Thank you all for watching. If you liked it, leave a like. If you want to leave a comment, whatever. If you want to leave a dislike, whatever. Peace. Peace to all everyone.